Prepare to dive into a soul-stirring story, a somber tale that hangs over the small town of Alcázar, Misiones. Meet Jorge Daniel Brites, El Pelado, a boy of just 11 whose youthful innocence and vibrant dreams were tragically cut short. In a place where life moved at a serene pace, a sinister shadow lurked, ready to shatter hope. This video uncovers the first chapters of the moving narrative of a young talent, whose passion for soccer and admiration for Maradona lit up the daily lives of his friends. A unique and promising opportunity at Club Talleres de Córdoba beckoned, a future that, cruelly, would never materialize. But amidst the sweetness of childhood and the promise of a bright future, a premonition of imminent disaster hung in the air. What hides between the lines of this apparent normality? What dark secrets lie beneath the surface of this small Argentinian town? Immerse yourself in this atmosphere charged with mystery and emotion. Have you ever wondered, what kind of invisible force could lurk in such a peaceful place? Did the promise of a future in soccer ironically put him in danger? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight might shed light on the dark nuances of this story. Hello everyone, welcome to the True Crime Files Investigations channel. If you are a lover of real criminal stories, get ready for an exciting marathon. Every week, we will explore shocking and remarkable cases, the most complex and intriguing ones, with an in-depth analysis of the details and motivations behind each event, which leads us to question human nature. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos, and ensure you're always up to date with our exclusive content. Leave your like to strengthen our community and motivate me to bring more and more impactful and unprecedented stories. Get ready to discover the backstage of the crime world, learn about the failures of the judicial system and the stories of victims fighting for justice. Welcome to an investigative and emotional journey. I count on you on this journey. The truth is about to be revealed. So, fasten your seatbelts, because the investigation begins now. Jorge Daniel Brites, affectionately nicknamed by everyone as El Pelado, an endearing reference to his shaved head, was just an 11-year-old boy, full of dreams and the unique vivacity of his age. His home was in Alcázar, a tiny village nestled in the province of Misiones, a place so small it barely reached 100 souls. In that tranquil corner of Argentina, where life followed a slow and predictable rhythm, Jorge already nurtured an ambition that made him buzz: to become a professional soccer player. In his games with friends, the number 10 jersey was his, a tribute to his great idol, Diego Maradona. With the ball at his feet, Jorge seemed to transcend his young age, exhibiting a natural talent that left his teammates speechless. That ability, which shone like a beacon amidst Alcázar's simplicity, did not go unnoticed. There was a promise in the air, an invitation for a tryout at the renowned Club Talleres de Córdoba, a unique and glittering opportunity that could have completely reshaped the course of his young existence. That autumn of 1998, more precisely on October 15th, Mother's Day was approaching, just 3 days before the celebration. With a tender heart and the innocence characteristic of his age, El Pelado asked his father, Jorge Antonio, affectionately called Toto Brites, for a simple 2-peso bill. His wish was to buy a special gift for Berta Stur Bolmer, his beloved mother. Jorge Antonio, with the tenderness of a dedicated father, did not hesitate to grant his eldest son's request. Jorge was the firstborn of 4 siblings and was in 4th grade at school number 274, a modest building just 4 blocks from his home. Like any other school day, he walked to school, but that morning, a breath of spontaneity led him to change his usual route, accompanied by his inseparable friend, Maximiliano Pers. Instead of following the familiar path, the 2 boys made a small detour along Avenida Belgrano, a street that ended right in the town's central square, the pulsating heart of Alcázar. The reason behind this change of plans was simple and touching. Jorge wanted to find a special card for his mother, a gesture of affection that carried all the purity of his 11 years. As they walked side by side, absorbed in their own childish worlds, their eyes fell upon a box that seemed out of place with the familiar streetscape. It was white, with vivid red details, resembling a fishing tackle box. A padlock kept it sealed, and a brick served as an improvised base. It lay there, abandoned on the sidewalk, precisely in front of the gate of the town doctor's residence, Hugo Fernando Salazar del Risco. Moved by naive curiosity, Jorge approached, perhaps imagining finding some hidden treasure inside. The moment his hands lifted the box, the morning silence was brutally broken by a deafening explosion. Hundreds of nails were hurled like a merciless rain of metal. The detonation was immediate and terribly devastating, to the point that the force of the impact instantly took the boy's life. Maximiliano, who for a fraction of a second, guided by an instinct of survival, had stepped back a few paces, suffered an open fracture in his right leg, with significant muscle mass loss. The explosion's shockwave scattered nails over a radius of 15 to 20 meters, transforming the peaceful street into a scene of horror. On that fateful day, life in Alcázar was irremediably altered. At 6:30 in the morning, the violent roar of the explosion shook the small community, plunging everyone into a state of paralyzing shock. The news spread like wildfire. An 11-year-old boy had been the fatal victim of a homemade bomb explosion. Disbelief hung in the air. No one could conceive how such brutal violence could have erupted in a place where routine was synonymous with tranquility and predictability. El Pelado's father, who at the time was working at a sawmill, received an urgent, anguish-filled call. He rushed home desperately, only to come across a scene no father should ever witness. His son, there inert, lying face down, his body bloody and shattered. Beside him, like a faithful guardian, Bocha, the family dog, refused to leave the boy's body. What initially seemed like an isolated accident, an unthinkable tragedy, soon began to emerge as one of the darkest and most controversial cases in Misiones judicial history. An open wound that, despite the evidence and long years of tireless struggle for justice, would remain marked by impunity and by the pain of a family that could never find the answers it so desperately sought. The first to arrive at the explosion site were neighbors alarmed by the terrifying noise, among them the owner of the house in front of which the bomb exploded, Salazar del Risco. Paradoxically, it was he who provided first aid to Maximiliano, using his medical knowledge to stabilize him before he was rushed to Samick Hospital in El Dorado. From the outset, suspicions began to converge on the doctor. Hugo Fernando Salazar del Risco was not a stranger in Alcázar. This Peruvian doctor had arrived in the town in 1985 and, seeking greater integration into the community, even ran for mayor in 1995 for the Justicialist Party. Opinions about him were contrasting. Some described him as a charismatic man, with an engaging way of communicating, but others perceived traits of egocentrism and a tendency to manipulate in his personality. The clouds of suspicion over Salazar del Risco quickly thickened. His involvement in a medical malpractice case in Puerto Libertad came to light, where he had been accused of negligence after the tragic death of another 11-year-old girl. The initial expert analyses revealed the bomb's sinister nature, a meticulously crafted homemade device. It consisted of a white fishing tackle box adorned with red details, equipped with a small fire extinguisher that served as a casing for the main explosive. Inside, there was about half a kilogram of reinforced black powder, coupled with a detonator improvised from a shotgun shell and a grenade firing pin. To inflict maximum damage, the device was loaded with an alarming number of 4-centimeter nails, transformed into lethal shrapnel, designed to exponentially increase the explosion's destructive power. The detonation system was rudimentary but effective, a brick attached to a hemp string, which, when removed, would trigger the firing pin. The technical details of the bomb's construction indicated that its author possessed advanced knowledge. The knots securing the string were of the surgical type, a technique peculiar to surgeons, a detail that unequivocally pointed to Salazar del Risco. The coincidences accumulated disturbingly. Materials surprisingly similar to those found in the bomb's remnants were discovered inside the doctor's residence. Furthermore, eyewitnesses reported seeing him making strange movements in front of his house shortly before the fatal bang. What most intrigued investigators was the astonishing precision with which Salazar del Risco described the fragments dispersed by the explosion, a remarkable feat, as he did so even before the forensic experts arrived. In a short time, the figure of the doctor, previously a respected professional in the small community of Alcázar, transformed into that of the main suspect in one of the darkest and most painful cases in Misiones history. The growing mountain of evidence culminated in his arrest on October 26, 1998, a mere 11 days after the tragedy that shook the town. The arrest warrant was issued by the then investigating judge, Hector Acosta, who, ironically, soon after had to step down from the investigation after being recused by the doctor's defense. The case then passed into the hands of Judge Ruben Lune, who, convinced of the solidity of the evidence linking Salazar del Risco to the bomb's manufacture and placement, ordered his pretrial detention. And so, the doctor was transferred to Penal Unit No. 2 in El Dorado, where he remained detained for 2 years and 1 month. During his incarceration, he maintained a discreet posture, avoiding conflicts, and paradoxically, using his medical training to assist other inmates who needed care. The awaited oral trial in the El Pelado Brites case began in November 2000, at Criminal Court No. 1 in Posadas. Prosecutor Liliana Mabel Picasso led the prosecution with unwavering conviction of Salazar del Risco's guilt, seeking his life imprisonment. The evidence presented seemed robust and incriminating. However, the unfolding of the judicial process held unexpected twists. Several crucial pieces of evidence were inexplicably discarded. A blatant example was the testimony of Juan Carlos Gravinsky, a bricklayer who claimed that the doctor had detailed to him how to build a bomb. His testimony was summarily rejected by Judge Demetria Gonzalez de Canteros, on the grounds that the witness could not specify either the exact date or context of the conversation. Similarly, the significance of the surgical knots, which pointed directly to a surgeon's expertise, was minimized under the argument that anyone with basic medical knowledge, including dentists and veterinarians, could have made them. The sentence handed down by the court revealed a deep division among the magistrates. While Judge Gonzalez de Canteros and her colleague Ángel de Jesus Cardu voted for Salazar del Risco's acquittal, invoking the principle of benefit of the doubt, Judge Roque Martín Gonzalez expressed his vehement disagreement, advocating for life imprisonment. He argued that the evidence presented was sufficient to prove the doctor's guilt, asserting that Salazar del Risco had assembled the explosive device between 6 o'clock and 6:05 a.m. on that fateful October 15th. Finally, on November 22, 2000, Salazar del Risco was acquitted. Prosecutor Picasso, dissatisfied with the verdict, appealed the decision, succeeding in having the Superior Court of Justice of Misiones annul the trial in 2001 and order a new process. However, by this time, the doctor had already crossed Argentina's borders, returning to his native country, Peru, where he managed to evade Argentine justice, relying on the absence of extradition treaties between the two nations. In 2004, Interpol located Salazar del Risco working in a private clinic in the city of Moyobamba, Peru. Although he was detained by Peruvian authorities, the neighboring country's justice system rejected the extradition request, claiming that he had already been tried for the same case in Argentina. Argentine authorities made a new attempt to obtain extradition in 2009, but, once again, the response was negative. The case, marked by frustration and a sense of impunity, remained stagnant and, with the inexorable passage of time, became time-barred, sealing a painful chapter in the history of Alcázar and in the life of the Brites family. The question about the motivations behind such a cruel act and the reasons for the impunity echoes as a lament. And so, with the weight of the years, impunity solidified as a persistent shadow over Jorge Daniel's memory. Prosecutor Picasso, who tirelessly fought to reopen the case and seek the truth, passed away without witnessing justice being served. The doctor, meanwhile, vanished from the map, and his whereabouts remain a mystery to this day. The incomprehension of what truly happened on that fateful day continues to haunt the family. The feeling of being abandoned by the judicial system was overwhelming. The 11,100 pesos compensation granted by the state, related to school insurance, sounded like a cruel joke in the face of the immense pain that consumed them. Over time, a small shrine was erected at the explosion site, a silent testament to a life tragically cut short. From time to time, someone places fresh flowers there, in honor of Jorge Daniel's memory. Today, more than 25 years after the heinous crime, impunity remains the only bitter certainty. The weight of impunity has settled as a persistent shadow over Jorge Daniel's memory. Thank you so much for watching this story. Your presence and support are essential for me to continue creating quality content. So, if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes. Your subscription and comments are fundamental for me to keep bringing quality content. Leave your opinion in the comments, always with respect for the victims, and together let's build an even better community. Thank you so much for following my work, and I'll see you in the next episode.